The emergency room at Mercy General Hospital buzzed with its usual pre-holiday intensity. Nurses hustled between beds, orderlies pushed gurneys down hallways, and the occasional burst of laughter from the staff lounge provided brief respite from the organized chaos. Red and green paper chains hung from the nurses' station. A small plastic tree blinked in the corner, and someone had taped paper snowflakes to the windows. Valiant attempts to infuse holiday cheer into the sterile environment. Dr. Emma Reynolds finished stitching a gash on a 10-year-old boy's forehead, carefully explaining each step to distract him from the pain. "And that's the last one," she said, tying off the final suture with practiced hands. "6 stitches makes you officially brave. Want to see?" The boy nodded, eyes wide, and Emma handed him a small mirror. He examined her handiwork with the solemn concentration only children can muster for their battle wounds. "Will I have a scar?" he asked hopefully. Emma smiled. "Just a tiny one. Not enough to look like a pirate, I'm afraid." "Oh, man." His disappointment made her chuckle. Emma peeled off her gloves and made a few notes in the boy's chart while his mother thanked her profusely. 20 minutes later, after discharging 3 more patients and ordering labs for a woman with unexplained dizziness, Emma finally collapsed into a chair at the nurse's station. She checked her watch. 3 hours until her shift ended. 3 hours until she could go home, change into pajamas, and enjoy what remained of Christmas Eve with her sister's family. "Hey, Dr. Reynolds." Nurse Patel slid a fresh coffee across the counter. "You look like you need this more than I do." "Melissa, you're an angel." Emma gratefully accepted the offering. "What's the board looking like?" "Surprisingly manageable. 2 in waiting, both non-urgent. Think the Christmas spirit is keeping people from killing themselves tonight." Emma snorted. "Give it time. The real madness hits after midnight when all the family gatherings implode." "True that." Melissa tapped her pen against the counter. "By the way, have you heard about the new admin guy? Word is, he's been lurking around all day, watching everything like some creepy Santa spy." "New admin guy?" Emma took a long sip of her coffee. "Please tell me you're joking." "Michael Thornton, transferred from some fancy hospital in Boston. Apparently, he's some kind of efficiency expert." Melissa lowered her voice. "And rumor has it he's here to make cuts." Emma groaned. The last thing Mercy General needed was another administrator with spreadsheets determining what constituted necessary care. She'd seen 3 come and go in her 6 years at the hospital, each leaving behind more paperwork and fewer resources. "Well, as long as he stays out of my ER, I don't care if he's the Grinch himself." Emma finished her coffee and stood up. "I'm going to check on Mrs. Abernathy's labs. Call me if anything interesting comes in." The relative calm lasted another 45 minutes. Emma was updating charts in the doctor's lounge when her pager buzzed. She hurried back to the ER to find Melissa looking apologetic. "Sorry to bother you, but there's someone here to see you. Says it's important." Emma followed Melissa's gaze to a tall man in an immaculate charcoal suit standing by the nurse's station. Everything about him screamed administration, from his perfectly knotted tie to the leather portfolio tucked under his arm. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and his posture military straight. Great. Just what she needed. Emma squared her shoulders and approached him. "I'm Dr. Reynolds. Can I help you?" The man turned, his steel blue eyes assessing her with unsettling intensity. "Dr. Reynolds, Michael Thornton, new Chief Operating Officer." He extended a hand, his grip firm and businesslike when she shook it. "Do you have a moment to discuss the holiday staffing schedule?" "I'm in the middle of a shift, Mr. Thornton. Is this urgent?" Something flickered across his face, annoyance perhaps, before his expression settled back into professional neutrality. "It concerns tomorrow's shift. I've been reviewing the rotation and noticed some inefficiencies." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. "My shift ends at 6 tonight, and I'm not scheduled again until the 27th. "That's precisely the issue." Thornton opened his portfolio and extracted a printed schedule. We're understaffed for Christmas Day. Dr. Wilson called in with a family emergency this afternoon, and his shift needs coverage. And you're telling me this because Emma already knew the answer, but some stubborn part of her hoped she was wrong. Because you're the most qualified person to take the shift. He stated it as a simple fact, as though the matter was already settled. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. Mr. Thornton, with all due respect, I requested Christmas Day off 3 months ago. I have plans with my family. My niece is flying in from college and— I understand, he interrupted, though his tone suggested he didn't understand at all. But hospital policy clearly states that in emergency situations, staff may be required to cover essential shifts. Your contract reflects this obligation. There are 5 other attending physicians who could cover, Emma countered, keeping her voice low to avoid creating a scene. What about Dr. Chen or Dr. Morales? Doctor, Chen has already worked 70 hours this week, which would put us in violation of labor regulations. Dr. Morales is scheduled for a double tomorrow evening. The others all have children at home. He met her gaze directly. You're the logical choice, Dr. Reynolds. The subtext was clear. You don't have children, so your Christmas plans matter less. Emma had encountered this attitude throughout her career, the assumption that without children of her own, she should perpetually cover holidays for her colleagues. My family matters too, Mr. Thornton. His expression remained impassive. No one is suggesting otherwise, but this is a hospital, and patient care must take priority over personal plans. Emma wanted to argue further, but she recognized the futility. This man clearly viewed staff as interchangeable resources rather than people. Besides, making an enemy of the new COO on his first day would be career suicide. What time? She asked, unable to keep the resignation from her voice. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The night shift is already covered. He made a note in his portfolio, a small smile of satisfaction playing at the corners of his mouth. Thank you for your understanding, Dr. Reynolds. The hospital appreciates your dedication. Emma doubted that very much. If that's all, I need to get back to my patients. Of course. He nodded crisply. I'll let you return to work. Have a good evening, Doctor. She watched him stride away, his expensive shoes clicking against the linoleum floor. Melissa approached, eyebrows raised. What was that about? I've been volunteered for Christmas duty, Emma said bitterly. Apparently, being single makes me the perfect candidate for holiday sacrifice. That's total BS. Melissa scowled in the direction Thornton had disappeared. Want me to accidentally spill something on him? I've got some particularly disgusting samples in the lab. Despite her frustration, Emma laughed. Tempting, but I'd rather not give him a reason to fire either of us. She sighed. I need to call my sister. She's going to be so disappointed. I'm sorry, Em. That guy seems like a real piece of work. Just another admin who's forgotten what it's like to actually care for patients. Emma shook her head. Let's focus on getting through tonight. I'll deal with tomorrow when it comes. The remaining hours of her shift passed in a blur of minor emergencies and holiday-related injuries. A man with second-degree burns from deep-frying a turkey, a woman who had fallen from a ladder while hanging decorations, 3 separate alcohol-related incidents, and a teenager who had managed to embed a Christmas ornament hook in his earlobe. By the time 6 o'clock rolled around, Emma was exhausted and emotionally drained. The conversation with her sister had gone as expected, initial disappointment followed by understanding. It's not your fault, Sarah had assured her. We'll save dinner for you. Come whenever you can. Emma changed out of her scrubs in the locker room, her movements mechanical. Outside, fat snowflakes drifted from a charcoal sky, already forming a white blanket over the parking lot. The forecast had mentioned a possible storm, but Emma hadn't expected it to hit so soon. She was brushing snow off her windshield when she spotted Michael Thornton exiting the hospital, his tall figure unmistakable even at a distance. He paused at the top of the steps, looking up at the sky with a frown, before continuing to the administrative parking section. prime spots close to the entrance naturally. Emma felt a petty surge of satisfaction when she saw him struggle to open his car door, apparently frozen shut from the rapidly dropping temperature. Serve him right, let him battle the elements like the rest of them. 20 minutes later, she was home in her small apartment, peeling off layers of winter clothing and cranking up the heat. The place felt emptier than usual. Her modest Christmas decorations, a small tree on the coffee table, and a string of lights around the window, only emphasizing the solitude. Emma showered, changed into comfortable clothes, and was debating whether to heat up leftover pasta or order takeout when her phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," Emma answered. "I was just about to call you." "Em, have you looked outside recently?" Sarah's voice held a note of concern. "Not since I got home." "Why?" "The storm's getting serious. They've issued a travel advisory. Roads are already treacherous, and it's supposed to get worse overnight." Emma moved to the window and pulled back the curtain. The snow was falling much heavier now, the wind driving it sideways. Even through the double-paned glass, she could hear it howling. "Yeah, it's pretty bad." Emma sighed. "I guess that settles it. I wouldn't make it to you guys tonight anyway." "That's what I figured." "I'm sorry, Em. This Christmas is turning out to be a bust for you. It's not your fault. Blame the weather and my charming new boss." Emma pressed her forehead against the cool window glass. "How's Lily taking it? Is she very disappointed?" "She understands. Says she'll save her big college stories for tomorrow night instead." "Tell her I'm sorry. And tell Mom not to wait up. I'll try to come by after my shift ends, but with this weather, who knows?" They talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. Emma stared at her reflection in the dark window, suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of loneliness. She'd been looking forward to this Christmas for weeks, the first time in months that her entire family would be together. And now, because of Michael Thornton's arbitrary decision, she'd be spending Christmas morning in the ER instead of watching her niece open presents. Instead of her mother's cinnamon rolls and her sister's perfectly roasted turkey, she'd be eating vending machine sandwiches and drinking burned coffee from the break room. Emma pushed away from the window and forced herself into action. No point in wallowing. If she had to work tomorrow, she'd at least be prepared. She packed her work bag with extra scrubs and snacks, set 2 alarms on her phone, and laid out warm clothes for the morning commute. As she finally crawled into bed, exhaustion overriding hunger, Emma found herself hoping for some calmer. Perhaps Michael Thornton would find himself working tomorrow too, instead of enjoying whatever perfect, privileged Christmas he had planned. Little did she know, the universe was already conspiring to grant that wish, in ways neither of them could possibly imagine. Morning arrived with blinding whiteness. Emma's alarm jolted her awake at 5:30, and one glance out the window confirmed her fears. The storm had dumped at least 15 inches of snow overnight, and it was still coming down. "Perfect," she muttered, dragging herself out of bed. "Merry freaking Christmas to me." The drive to Mercy General, normally 20 minutes, took over an hour. Emma white-knuckled the steering wheel through unplowed streets, past abandoned vehicles, and nearly slid into a ditch twice. By the time she finally parked in the hospital lot, her nerves were frayed and her holiday spirit non-existent. The ER was eerily quiet when she arrived, a rare occurrence that usually preceded chaos. Nurse Patel greeted her with surprise. "You made it! I honestly didn't think anyone would." "What do you mean?" Emma hung up her snow-covered coat. "Is the staff short? You haven't heard? The governor declared a state of emergency about 2 hours ago. Most of the day shift couldn't get in. We've got me, Rodriguez from radiology, 2 security guards, and now you." Melissa handed Emma a steaming cup of coffee. "Merry Christmas, by the way." Emma took the coffee gratefully. "Merry Christmas. What about patients?" 3 overnight stays we're monitoring, but no new arrivals in the last 4 hours. Roads are impassable in most areas. So I risked my life driving here? And there's no one to treat? Emma couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry. Fantastic. Look on the bright side. Maybe we'll actually get a quiet Christmas for once. Emma was about to respond when the emergency doors slid open, letting in a blast of frigid air and swirling snow. A tall figure stumbled through, covered in white from head to toe. "Oh my God!" the figure exclaimed, brushing snow from his face. "It's absolutely treacherous out there." Emma froze, coffee halfway to her lips. Even with his perfectly coiffed hair now dripping wet and his expensive suit dusted with snow, Michael Thornton was unmistakable. "Mr. Thornton," she said, unable to keep surprise from her voice. "What are you doing here?" He looked up, equally startled to see her. "Dr. Reynolds, you made it in." "As ordered," she replied coolly. "Though I'm curious why the chief operating officer is here on Christmas morning during a state of emergency." Thornton straightened, attempting to restore his dignified appearance, despite his disheveled state. "I make it a point to be present during crisis situations. Leadership should be visible when challenges arise." Emma exchanged a skeptical glance with Melissa, who was making no effort to hide her amusement. "Well," Emma said, "as you can see, we're currently experiencing the crisis of having too many staff and not enough patients. Perhaps you'd like to reconsider your staffing decisions now." A flash of discomfort crossed his face. "The storm's severity wasn't anticipated when I made those arrangements." Funny. The weather service has been warning about this for days." The tension between them was interrupted by a loud beeping from the hospital's intercom system. "Attention all staff," a voice announced. "Due to the ongoing weather emergency, Mercy General is now operating under Protocol 7. All non-essential personnel are advised to remain where they are. Shifts are suspended until further notice. I repeat, Protocol 7 is now in effect." Melissa turned to Emma. "Protocol 7? Isn't that the—" "Hospital lockdown," Emma finished. "No one in, no one out except for medical emergencies." All three of them looked toward the entrance, where the snow continued to fall in blinding sheets. The reality of their situation began to sink in. "How long do these lockdowns typically last?" Thornton asked, his authoritative tone slipping slightly. Emma couldn't resist a small, vindicating smile. "Hard to say. Could be hours. Could be days." "Days?" The alarm in his voice was unmistakable. "Welcome to Christmas at Mercy General, Mr. Thornton." Emma raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. "Looks like you'll be experiencing hospital operations from the front lines after all." The afternoon crawled by with excruciating slowness. Emma made her rounds, checking on the 3 overnight patients. An elderly man with pneumonia, a woman recovering from appendicitis, and a teenager with a concussion from a sledding accident. All stable, all bored, all wishing they were anywhere else on Christmas Day. "Any chance I could get out of here today, Doc?" asked Jason, the 17-year-old with the concussion, as Emma checked his pupils. "Even if your scan comes back clear, no one's going anywhere in this storm," Emma replied, offering him a sympathetic smile. "Have you talked to your parents?" "Yeah, they're stuck at my grandma's place about 30 miles from here. Dad says the plows aren't even trying to clear their neighborhood yet." He sighed dramatically. "This officially wins as my worst Christmas ever." Emma patted his shoulder. "I know the feeling. How about I see if we can find you something better than hospital food for dinner? No promises, but I'll try." Jason's face brightened slightly. "That would be awesome. Hospital Jell-O just doesn't scream Christmas feast, you know." "I'll see what I can do," Emma promised, making a mental note to check if any of the vending machines had chocolate or anything remotely festive. After finishing her rounds, Emma retreated to the doctor's lounge, seeking a moment of peace. The room was deserted except for Michael Thornton, who sat at the table with his laptop open, typing furiously. He looked up briefly when she entered, then returned to his work without acknowledgement. Emma considered leaving, but decided against it. This was her space more than his. She wasn't going to be chased out by his chilly demeanor. She poured herself another coffee and settled into the armchair in the corner, pulling out her phone to text her sister, still stuck at hospital, lockdown in effect. "Save me some turkey?" Sarah responded almost immediately. Whole family snowed in at house. Mom stress baking, Dad watching football at maximum volume. "Send help." Emma smiled. Trade you? Not a chance. At least I have wine. How's Scrooge McBossypants? Emma glanced at Thornton, who continued typing, apparently oblivious to her presence. Trapped here too. Currently ignoring my existence. Karma's a beautiful thing. Hang in there. Emma put her phone away and sipped her coffee, studying Thornton surreptitiously over the rim of her mug. Up close, without the intimidating context of their first meeting, she noticed details she'd missed before. The faint shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept well. His jaw clenched rhythmically as he worked. A stress tell, perhaps. And occasionally, his perfectly composed expression slipped into something more human when he thought no one was watching. "Is there something I can help you with, Dr. Reynolds?" he asked suddenly, not looking up from his screen. Caught staring, Emma felt her cheeks warm. Just wondering what could possibly require such intense concentration on Christmas Day during a state emergency. He finally looked at her, his blue eyes sharp. "Hospital operations don't pause for holidays or weather, Doctor. Someone needs to coordinate emergency responses, communicate with other facilities, and manage our limited resources. And naturally, only you can handle such responsibility," Emma replied dryly. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "I'm doing my job. The same job I asked you to do by covering this shift, except I'm here to care for patients, not spreadsheets." The words came out more sharply than she'd intended. Thornton's expression hardened. "Those spreadsheets ensure this hospital can continue caring for patients at all. Budget constraints don't disappear because we find them inconvenient." Emma was about to retort when her pager buzzed. She checked it and stood immediately. "Duty calls," she said, relieved for the interruption. "Enjoy your spreadsheets, Mr. Thornton." She left the lounge to find Melissa waiting anxiously in the hallway. "What's up?" "2 incoming," Melissa said, already moving toward the ER entrance. "Ambulance fought through the snow. Car accident on Route 36. Emma's training kicked in, her personal frustrations instantly forgotten. "How far out?" 3 minutes. "Driver has suspected internal bleeding. Passenger has facial lacerations and possible broken arm. Prep trauma 1 and 2. Page Rodriguez for immediate x-rays. Do we have blood on standby?" 2 units O-neg in the warmer. "Good. Let's move." The next 2 hours passed in controlled chaos. The driver, a man in his 50s who had been trying to reach his daughter's house for Christmas dinner, had a ruptured spleen and required emergency surgery. The passenger, his wife, had a broken radius and needed 23 stitches across her forehead and cheek. Emma worked efficiently alongside the skeleton crew, the familiar rhythm of emergency medicine centering her. This was what she was trained for, making quick, critical decisions under pressure, saving lives. By the time the husband was stabilized and transferred to surgery, and the wife was resting comfortably with her arm in a cast, Emma felt the satisfaction that only came from doing her job well. She was updating the patient's charts at the nurse's station when she sensed someone watching her. Michael Thornton stood a few feet away, his earlier cool demeanor replaced by something that might almost be respect. "Impressive work, Dr. Reynolds," he said quietly. Emma glanced up, surprised by the comment. "Just doing my job, Mr. Thornton. You do it exceptionally well." He stepped closer, examining the trauma board. "Melissa mentioned you handled most of that procedure on your own, with minimal staff. We make do with what we have." Emma couldn't quite reconcile this version of Michael Thornton, the one offering genuine compliments, with the cold administrator who'd forced her to work today. He seemed to sense her confusion. "Contrary to what you might think, Doctor, I do appreciate skilled medical professionals. This hospital is fortunate to have you." Before Emma could formulate a response, the emergency doors slid open again, bringing another gust of snow and wind. A figure bundled in multiple layers staggered in, carrying what appeared to be a large duffel bag. "Dr. Emma!" the figure called, pulling down a scarf to reveal the weathered face of an older man with a grey beard. "Merry Christmas!" Emma's expression immediately softened. "Walter, what on earth are you doing out in this storm? It's dangerous to be walking around out there." The man, Walter, stomped snow from his boots. Couldn't miss our Christmas tradition, could I? Though I gotta say, this weather's something fierce even for this old Minnesota transplant. Emma rushed to help him with his bag. You shouldn't have risked it. I would have understood. And leave you alone on Christmas? Not a chance. Walter looked around, noticing Thornton for the first time. Who's the suit? Emma suppressed a smile at Walter's blunt assessment. Walter, this is Michael Thornton, our new Chief Operating Officer. Mr. Thornton, this is Walter Hayes. Walter extended a gloved hand. Nice to meet you, Chief. You picked a hell of a day to visit the trenches. Thornton shook the offered hand, his confusion evident. Mr. Hayes, are you a patient? Walter barked a laugh. Do I look sick to you, son? No, I'm just an old friend bringing Christmas dinner. He patted the duffel bag. Got everything in thermal containers this year. Should still be warm, despite my little Arctic expedition. Thornton looked even more confused. You brought dinner to the hospital? It's our tradition, Emma explained, helping Walter remove his outer layers. 6 years running now. 7, Walter corrected. Remember that first year when all you had was those sad vending machine sandwiches? Broke my heart. How could I forget? Emma smiled at the memory. You showed up with 2 thermoses of soup and homemade bread. Best I could manage on short notice, Walter said. But I've upped my game since then. Thornton watched their exchange with evident bewilderment. I'm sorry, but I'm still not clear on why a civilian is delivering food during a hospital lockdown, or how he even made it through the snow. Walter lives in the apartment building next door, Emma explained. And as for why, she hesitated, unsure how much to share with her new boss. Walter had no such reservations. Because nobody should eat alone on Christmas, especially not folks stuck working or staying in a hospital. He turned to Emma. Where should we set up this year? The usual place. Let's use the staff lounge. It's warmer, and we can invite the patients who are able to join us. Emma glanced at Thornton. Unless there's a regulation against impromptu Christmas dinners, Mr. Thornton? For once, the administrator seemed at a loss for words. I suppose that would be acceptable given the circumstances. Mighty generous of you, Walter said with a hint of sarcasm. Now, who's going to help an old man carry this feast before it gets cold? To Emma's surprise, Thornton stepped forward. Allow me, Mr. Hayes. As they walked toward the staff lounge, Emma overheard Walter asking Thornton, So you're the one who made the dock work on Christmas, huh? She winced, quickening her pace to catch up before Walter could say anything more indiscreet. But when she reached them, Walter was simply nodding thoughtfully at whatever Thornton had replied. The staff lounge was quickly transformed. Emma cleared the tables while Melissa helped Walter unpack his duffel bag, revealing containers of roast turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, green bean casserole, rolls and 2 pies, pumpkin and apple. Walter, you've outdone yourself, Emma marveled, surveying the spread. How did you manage all this? Been cooking since yesterday, he said proudly. Figure I might get snowed in, so why not have plenty of leftovers? Then when the storm hit, I thought, who else is going to be stuck without a proper Christmas meal? You and all these good people here. Thornton stood to the side, watching the proceedings with a strange expression, something between confusion and nostalgia. Mr. Thornton, Emma said, surprising herself by reaching out, would you help me gather the patients who are well enough to join us? He hesitated only briefly before nodding. Of course. They walked together to check on the patients, an awkward silence between them. This Walter, Thornton finally said. He's not a relative of yours. Emma shook her head. Just a friend. I treated him for pneumonia my first year here. He was homeless at the time, living in his car. And now he brings you Christmas dinner every year. Thornton seemed genuinely puzzled by the relationship. It's more complicated than that. Emma stopped walking, considering how much to explain. After he recovered, I helped him get into subsidized housing and connected him with a social worker. He got back on his feet, found part-time work as a handyman in the building where he lives now. That's commendable of you. It wasn't charity, if that's what you're thinking. Walter had a run of bad luck after his wife died. Lost his job, then his house. But he never lost his dignity or his generous spirit. Emma continued walking. That first Christmas I worked here, I had no family in the area yet. Walter showed up with food he'd made in the tiny kitchenette in his new apartment. Said no one should be alone on Christmas. Thornton was quiet for a moment, and it became a tradition. Yes, the next year I invited a few patients who couldn't go home. The year after that, some staff joined in. Now it's just what we do. They reached Jason's room. The teenager's face lit up when Emma explained about the impromptu dinner. Real food? Seriously? This is awesome. Soon they had gathered everyone who could safely leave their beds. 5 patients total, including Jason and the woman from the car accident whose name was Linda. Emma noticed how Thornton naturally took charge of helping Linda, offering his arm for support as they slowly made their way to the lounge. By the time they arrived, Walter had enlisted Rodriguez from radiology to set out paper plates and plastic utensils. Melissa was arranging the food buffet style, and the security guards had found a small radio playing Christmas music. "Ladies and gentlemen," Walter announced as they entered, "dinner is served. Nothing fancy, but it's hot and there's plenty for everyone." Emma watched as their unlikely group came together. Patients in robes and slippers, medical staff in scrubs, Walter in his flannel shirt and suspenders, and Michael Thornton in his now rumpled designer suit. The contrast was striking, yet there was something beautiful about the scene. As they filled their plates and found seats, Emma ended up next to Thornton at the small table in the corner. "This isn't exactly how either of us planned to spend Christmas, is it?" she asked, attempting a truce. He looked at his plate, then around the room at the others chatting and eating. "No," he admitted. "It's not. Better or worse than your original plans." A shadow passed over his face. "Different." Emma sensed there was more behind his terse response, but before she could ask, Walter approached their table. "Mind if I join you too?" Without waiting for an answer, he settled his plate next to Emma's. "So, Mr. Chief Operating Officer, Emma tells me you're from Boston. What brought you to our humble hospital?" Thornton straightened slightly. "A professional opportunity. Mercy General has potential, but it's operating inefficiently in several areas." "Huh." Walter cut into his turkey. "And let me guess, your job is to fix all that, make everything run like clockwork?" "Essentially, yes." Walter nodded sagely. "Used to be an engineer before I retired. Loved making things efficient. But you know what I learned after 40 years? Systems are made of people, not just processes, and people need things spreadsheets can't measure." Emma suppressed a smile as she watched Thornton process Walter's straightforward wisdom. "I'm well aware that healthcare requires a human element, Mr. Hayes," Thornton replied stiffly. "Are you now?" Walter's eyes twinkled. "That why you made our doc here miss Christmas with her family, because you were thinking about the human element?" "Walter," Emma warned quietly. Thornton set down his fork. "Staff allocation decisions are based on multiple factors, including seniority, previous holiday rotations, and family circumstances," Walter finished for him. "Yeah," Emma mentioned that part. "Tell me, in your fancy algorithm, did you factor in that her sister and niece flew in from California specifically to see her? Or that her mother's been battling arthritis all year and Emma's been driving her to physical therapy 3 times a week?" Emma felt her face growing hot. "Walter, please, it's fine." Thornton looked at Emma, genuine surprise in his eyes. "I wasn't aware." "Of course you weren't aware," Walter interrupted, "because efficiency experts don't usually ask about the stories behind the names on their spreadsheets." An uncomfortable silence fell over their table. Emma wanted to dissolve into her mashed potatoes from embarrassment. She hadn't told Walter all those details, so he could ambush her boss with them. To her surprise, Thornton didn't appear angry. Instead, he looked thoughtful. "You're right," he said finally. "I didn't ask. That was an oversight on my part." The simple acknowledgement stunned Emma. She'd expected defensiveness or bureaucratic justification, not admission. Walter seemed equally surprised, but recovered quickly. "Well, now you know. So what are you going to do about it?" Before Thornton could answer, a commotion at the main table drew their attention. Linda, the car accident victim, had stood up shakily, raising her plastic cup of apple juice. "I'd like to say something if I may," she called out. When the room quieted, she continued, "My husband and I thought our Christmas was ruined when our car slid off the road this morning. Instead, we found angels dressed in scrubs who saved his life and patched me up." Her voice broke slightly. "I don't know all your names, but I want to thank each of you for being here today, for sacrificing your holiday so people like us have somewhere to turn when disaster strikes." Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the room. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. "And to whoever cooked this amazing meal," Linda continued, nodding toward Walter, "you've brought the spirit of Christmas into this place when we needed it most. So Merry Christmas to all of you. I'll never forget your kindness." "Hear, hear," called Jason, raising his own cup. "Best hospital Christmas ever." As the impromptu toasts continued around the room, Emma noticed Thornton watching the scene with an unreadable expression. When he turned and found her observing him, he didn't look away. "Your friend Walter makes an excellent point," he said quietly. "I've been focused on numbers rather than narratives." "It's your job," Emma replied, surprised by his candor. "My job is to help this hospital function optimally. That doesn't have to mean ignoring the human factors." He hesitated. "I apologize for disrupting your family Christmas, Dr. Reynolds. Had I known the circumstances, I would have explored other options." The apology was so unexpected that Emma hardly knew how to respond. "Thank you," she managed finally. "I appreciate that." Thornton looked like he wanted to say more, but at that moment the lights flickered ominously throughout the lounge. Everyone froze, watching the fluorescent panels flicker 3 more times before stabilizing. "That can't be good," Melissa said from across the room. As if on cue, Emma's pager buzzed, followed by those of all the medical staff present. The message was clear. "Power grid unstable. Prepare for possible outage. Backup generators on standby." Emma exchanged a glance with Thornton. Their momentary connection was replaced by shared concern. "I should check on the critical systems," he said, standing immediately. "I'll come with you," Emma offered, surprising herself. "We need to make sure all patients on respiratory support are accounted for." As they hurried from the lounge, Emma couldn't help but notice how quickly they'd shifted from adversaries to allies in the face of a new challenge. Perhaps there was more to Michael Thornton than spreadsheets and efficiency after all. But as another flicker of lights reminded her, they had more pressing matters to address before she could explore that possibility further. The storm outside howled against the windows, a reminder that their Christmas ordeal was far from over. The hospital plunged into darkness for 3 terrifying seconds before emergency generators kicked in, bathing the corridors in dim amber light. Emma and Michael raced through the halls, checking on critical patients first. "Ventilators operational?" Michael asked, surprising Emma with his medical knowledge. "Yes, but running on backup power," she replied, checking monitors in the ICU. "We've got maybe 8 hours if the main power doesn't return." The hospital's skeleton crew gathered in the ER for an emergency briefing. Michael took charge effortlessly, his administrative experience proving unexpectedly valuable. "Rodriguez, check all imaging equipment. Melissa, inventory emergency supplies. Security, ensure all exterior doors remain secured." His voice was calm but authoritative. "Dr. Reynolds will coordinate patient care priorities." Emma found herself impressed by his clear-headed leadership. As the others dispersed, she approached him. "The premature infant in NICU concerns me most," she said. "His incubator requires consistent power." Michael nodded. "Show me." They hurried to the neonatal unit, where a tiny baby boy, born at 28 weeks just 2 days earlier, lay in his incubator. His mother had been transferred to a larger hospital after complications, leaving him temporarily in Mercy General's care. "He's stable for now," Emma explained, checking his vitals. But if power fails completely, it won't, Michael stated with unexpected determination. I'll personally ensure this unit gets priority power routing. Emma studied his face, noticing genuine concern in his eyes. You know something about premature births? A shadow crossed his features. My son was born at 26 weeks. The personal revelation caught Emma off guard. I didn't realize you had children. Had, he corrected quietly. He didn't survive. The single word hung between them, heavy with unspoken grief. Emma instinctively touched his arm. I'm sorry. Michael seemed momentarily startled by the contact, before nodding slightly. It was 7 years ago. Before Emma could respond, Walter appeared in the doorway. There you two are. The radio's saying power might be out for days in some areas. The hospital has generator capacity for 72 hours at reduced consumption, Michael replied automatically. That's assuming the generators keep running in this cold, Walter countered. Those old Kohler models downstairs hate extreme temperatures. Michael looked surprised. How do you know about our generators? Told you I was a handyman. Fixed one of those beasts last winter when your maintenance crew couldn't figure it out. Walter approached the incubator, his expression softening at the sight of the infant. This little guy needs constant warmth, doesn't he? Yes, Emma confirmed. If the power situation becomes critical, we might need to arrange emergency transport. Walter scratched his beard thoughtfully. I might have another solution. Got an old camping generator and some space heaters in my apartment. Could rig something up as backup for the backup. That's against at least 16 safety regulations, Michael began. And it could save this child's life if everything else fails, Emma countered. Their gazes locked, a silent challenge passing between them. To Emma's surprise, Michael yielded first. Let me see what you're proposing, Mr. Hayes, he said. We'll need to ensure it meets minimum safety standards. Indeed, as the two men left to examine Walter's equipment, Emma remained with the infant, marveling at the unexpected alliance forming between the gruff handyman and the polished administrator. Perhaps Crisis revealed people's true characters more clearly than any interview or performance review ever could. An hour later, Michael returned alone, looking both exasperated and impressed. Your friend Walter is resourceful. That's one word for him, Emma smiled. Is his idea viable? Surprisingly, yes. He's already modifying the equipment to make it hospital compatible. Michael checked the baby's monitors. How is he doing? Holding steady. Emma observed Michael's genuine concern. You're good at this, you know. Crisis management. It's what I was trained for. He straightened a wrinkle in the incubator's blanket with surprising tenderness. Before I became the villain who makes doctors work on Christmas. Emma laughed softly. I may have judged you too harshly. No, Walter was right. I failed to see beyond the spreadsheet. Michael looked directly at her. I've been trying to optimize this hospital without understanding its heart. Their conversation was interrupted when Jason, the teenage patient, appeared in the doorway. Dr. Emma, we're setting up a game night in the lounge if you guys want to join. Walter found some cards and board games in the pediatric ward. Emma checked her watch. 9:30 p.m. I'll come by after I check on our other patients. After Jason left, she turned to Michael. You should join them. Might be educational to see the human side of hospital operations. Are you mocking me, Dr. Reynolds? He asked, but with a hint of a smile. Absolutely, she smiled back. And it's Emma. Emma, he repeated as if testing the sound. I'm Michael. I know. An awkward silence followed, broken when Michael cleared his throat. I should check on the generators. He hesitated at the door. Save me a seat at game night. After he left, Emma found herself smiling inexplicably. The day had unfolded nothing like she'd expected. Between power outages, makeshift Christmas dinners, and seeing a completely different side to her strictly-by-the-numbers boss, this holiday was proving unforgettable, though not entirely in the negative way she'd anticipated. As she made her final rounds before joining the others, Emma stopped at Linda's room. The car accident victim was awake, staring anxiously at her phone. Any news about your husband? Emma asked gently. Linda looked up with tearful eyes. He's out of surgery, stable but critical. She clutched Emma's hand. I should be with him. As soon as it's safe to transport you, we'll get you there, Emma promised. Would you like to join the others in the lounge, meanwhile? Might help pass the time. I don't think I'd be good company, Linda sighed. But thank you. Emma sat beside her. You know, sometimes distraction is the best medicine for worry. Linda managed a small smile. Is that your professional opinion, Doctor? Absolutely. I prescribe one game of Monopoly to be taken immediately. Emma helped her into a wheelchair. Fair warning, Walter cheats at Monopoly. When they arrived at the lounge, the scene that greeted them was surreal. By the light of battery-powered lanterns, Walter was dealing cards to Jason, Melissa, and surprisingly, Michael Thornton, who had removed his tie and rolled up his sleeves. Ladies, Walter called out, perfect timing. We need more players for poker. Poker? Emma raised an eyebrow. What are you betting with? Jason grinned, pointing to a pile of wrapped candy. Christmas contraband. I've been hoarding it in my room. As Emma helped Linda into a spot at the table, she caught Michael watching her. Unlike their earlier encounters, his gaze now held warmth and something else she couldn't quite define. Fair warning, Michael said to Linda as Walter dealt the cards. Dr. Reynolds, Emma, is surprisingly cutthroat at card games. Oh? Linda looked curiously between them. And how would you know that, Mr. Thornton? Michael seemed momentarily flustered. I don't. Just an observation based on her professional demeanor. Pure speculation, Emma agreed, accepting her cards with exaggerated innocence. I'm sure I'll play quite conservatively. 3 hands later, Emma had accumulated most of the candy pile, confirming Michael's suspicions and delighting Walter, who declared her his poker protégé. As the night progressed, their unlikely group grew closer through shared stories, laughter, and the unique intimacy that emerges when strangers weather a crisis together. Emma noticed Michael gradually relaxing, his corporate facade slipping to reveal glimpses of a different man, one who listened attentively to Jason's college plans, who offered thoughtful advice to Linda about her husband's recovery, who laughed genuinely at Walter's outrageous stories. During a break in the games, Emma found herself alone with Michael near the coffee machine, now serving lukewarm coffee from a thermal carafe. You're full of surprises, Michael Thornton, she said, stirring powdered creamer into her cup. How so? I didn't expect the hospital's efficiency expert to spend Christmas night playing cards with patients and staff. Michael considered this, leaning against the counter. I didn't expect to either, but I'm finding the experience valuable. Valuable? Emma teased. Sounds like administrator speak for fun. A genuine smile broke across his face. The first full, unguarded smile she'd seen from him. Maybe it is. The lights flickered again, reminding them of their precarious situation. Michael's smile faded as he checked his watch. I should do another round of the critical systems, he said. I'll come with you, Emma offered. 2 sets of eyes are better than one. As they left the warmth of the lounge and walked through the dimly lit corridors, Emma felt an unexpected connection forming between them, forged in crisis and mutual respect. Whatever she had initially thought of Michael Thornton, the man walking beside her now was far more complex and human than the cold administrator who had ruined her Christmas plans. Little did she know that the night still held more revelations, and that by morning nothing between them would ever be the same again. Midnight approached as Emma and Michael finished checking the hospital's critical systems. The baby in the NICU remained stable, their other patients were resting comfortably, and Walter's backup generator stood ready if needed. The worst of the crisis seemed managed, at least temporarily. We should get some rest, Emma suggested, as they walked past the darkened cafeteria. Take shifts, watching the generators. Michael nodded, but neither moved toward the break rooms. Instead, they found themselves drawn to the large windows overlooking the hospital grounds. Outside, the snow continued falling in hypnotic patterns, illuminated by the emergency lights. It's beautiful in its way, Michael said quietly. Deadly beautiful, Emma agreed. Like many things in nature. They stood in companionable silence before Michael spoke again. I owe you an apology, Emma. You already apologized for making me work today. Not just for that. He turned to face her. For misjudging you. I reviewed your file when I first arrived, saw your exceptional medical record, but also noted several instances where you bent hospital protocols for patients. Emma tensed. Let me guess, you flagged me as a problem employee. I categorized you as someone who prioritized individual cases over systemic efficiency, he admitted. I was wrong to reduce you to a statistic. His honesty disarmed her. And I wrongly assumed you were just another heartless administrator with a spreadsheet fetish. Michael's laugh echoed in the empty corridor. Spreadsheet fetish? That's a new one. Am I wrong? Emma challenged playfully. Only partially, he conceded with a smile. I do appreciate a well-organized data set. Their laughter faded as the gravity of their situation returned. Emma studied his face in the dim emergency lighting, seeing fatigue etched around his eyes. Why did you really come in today? She asked. The truth this time. Michael hesitated before answering. Christmas is difficult for me. Has been since my son died. My wife left the following year, couldn't bear the reminders. He stared out at the snow. I find it easier to work than to remember. The vulnerability in his confession touched Emma deeply. I'm sorry, Michael. He shook his head. Ancient history now. Grief doesn't work on a timeline, Emma said gently. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Before either could speak again, Emma's pager beeped urgently. The NICU, she said, already moving. Something's wrong! They raced through the corridors, arriving breathless to find Walter already there, hovering anxiously over the incubator. Power fluctuation triggered an alarm, he explained. Temperature dropped 2 degrees before the backup stabilized. Emma immediately checked the infant's vitals. He's okay, but his core temperature is borderline. We can't risk another fluctuation. Michael assessed the situation quickly. The main generators are running at 60% capacity. If we redirect power from non-essential areas... Already tried that, Walter interrupted. This weather's pushing everything to the limit. Emma made a decision. We need to implement Walter's backup solution now, before we have a real emergency. Michael looked torn between protocol and practicality. Emma held his gaze steadily until he nodded. Do it, he said to Walter. I'll take full responsibility for any regulatory issues. Walter didn't waste time, hurrying to retrieve his equipment. Working together, the three of them established an independent heating system for the incubator, Walter's camping generator powering a carefully calibrated heating element, with Michael calculating the precise temperature requirements while Emma monitored the infant. By 1:30 a.m., their makeshift solution was functioning perfectly. The baby's temperature stabilized and his vital signs strengthened. We did it, Emma said, exhaustion and relief evident in her voice. Unorthodox but effective, Michael admitted, watching the steady rise and fall of the tiny chest. Your friend Walter is remarkably resourceful. Don't sound so surprised, Suit, Walter chuckled. Sometimes the best solutions aren't in the manual. Michael smiled ruefully. Lesson learned, Walter yawned dramatically. Well, this old man needs some shut-eye. You two youngsters can handle monitoring for a while. After Walter left, Emma and Michael settled into chairs beside the incubator. The soft hum of machines and gentle lighting created an intimate bubble around them. He reminds me of my grandfather, Michael said unexpectedly. Walter, I mean. Same practical wisdom, same disregard for authority. High praise, Emma noted. Earlier today, I wouldn't have imagined you admiring someone who breaks rules. Earlier today, I was a different person. Michael's voice was soft but certain. Or perhaps just a more guarded version of myself. The honesty between them felt as fragile and precious as the infant they watched over. Emma found herself sharing things she rarely discussed. "My sister raised her daughter alone after her husband left," she said. "I watched her struggle to balance work and parenthood, so I tried to help whenever I could. That's why Christmas with them is so important. We're a small family, but fiercely devoted." Michael listened intently. "You chose emergency medicine to help others in crisis, but who helps you, Emma?" The question caught her off guard. "I manage." "That's not an answer." She smiled wryly. "Says the workaholic who volunteered for Christmas duty to avoid his feelings." "Touché." He leaned back in his chair. "Perhaps we're more alike than either of us would have admitted this morning." As the night deepened, their conversation flowed more freely. Childhood memories, professional challenges, books they'd loved, places they hoped to visit. The administrative hierarchy that had separated them dissolved, replaced by genuine connection. When Emma yawned despite herself, Michael insisted she rest while he monitored the baby. "I've gone 48 hours without sleep during hospital acquisitions," he assured her. "One night watching an infant is nothing." "Wake me in 2 hours," she instructed, settling onto a nearby cot. "Doctor's orders." "Yes, doctor," he replied with a smile that made her heart skip unexpectedly. Emma drifted off, watching Michael gently adjusting the infant's blanket with surprising tenderness for a man who supposedly lived by spreadsheets and protocols. She woke to sunlight filtering through the windows and the realization that Michael had let her sleep through the night. He sat exactly where she'd left him, still watching over the baby, though his posture betrayed his exhaustion. "You were supposed to wake me," she admonished, checking her watch, 7:15 a.m. "You needed the rest more than I did," he said simply. Their eyes met across the incubator, something unspoken passing between them. The moment was interrupted by Walter arriving with thermoses of fresh coffee. "Merry post-Christmas morning," he announced. "Roads are being cleared, power's coming back in sections, and I've got breakfast sandwiches warming in the lounge." As they walked together toward the promised breakfast, Emma noticed Michael's hand brush against hers, perhaps accidentally, perhaps not. Either way, she didn't pull away. Whatever had started between them during this unexpected Christmas, Emma realized it was only beginning. Michael Thornton had indeed discovered something he would never forget, and perhaps so had she. Christmas morning gave way to afternoon as the hospital gradually returned to normal operations. Power was fully restored by 11, roads became passable by noon, and additional staff began arriving to relieve the exhausted skeleton crew. Emma finished discharging Jason, who couldn't stop talking about his best hospital stay ever despite his concussion. "You guys seriously made getting injured on Christmas not suck," he told Emma, as his parents prepared to take him home. "And that Mr. Thornton dude, way cooler than he looks." Emma smiled. "I'll be sure to pass along the compliment." After Jason left, Emma checked on Linda, who had finally been cleared for transfer to her husband's hospital. "His condition has stabilized," Emma explained. "You'll be with him within the hour." Linda clasped Emma's hand. "I can't thank you enough, not just for the medical care, but for the kindness. All of you made an impossible situation bearable." As ambulance personnel arrived to transport Linda, Emma felt a sense of closure. Their crisis was ending, their makeshift Christmas community dispersing. She wondered what would happen next, especially between her and Michael. She found him in the administrative wing, on the phone with the hospital board, providing a detailed account of their emergency response. His tie was back in place, his voice once again crisp and professional. Emma felt a twinge of disappointment, wondering if their connection had been merely situational. When he spotted her in the doorway, however, his formal demeanor softened. "I'll provide a complete written report this afternoon," he told the person on the phone. "Yes, thank you." Hanging up, he turned to Emma with a tired smile. "The board sends their commendations to all staff who managed the crisis." "How official," Emma commented. "Do we get certificates to hang next to our medical degrees?" Michael chuckled. "I could arrange that if you'd like." An awkward silence fell between them. The easy intimacy of their overnight conversations seemed suddenly remote in the fluorescent-lit office. "Walter's preparing to leave," Emma finally said. "He wanted to say goodbye." Michael nodded, standing and straightening papers on his desk with unnecessary precision. "Of course." They walked together toward the staff lounge, both seemingly unsure how to navigate this new post-crisis dynamic. "I've been thinking," Michael said abruptly, "about your staffing situation." Emma's heart sank. Back to business already. "Yes? You're due 5 days of compensatory leave for working during this emergency. Effective immediately." She blinked in surprise. "Effective immediately. The roads are clear enough for safe travel. Your family is still in town, I presume." His voice remained professional, but his eyes conveyed something deeper. "You should be with them." "What about the paperwork, the incident reports?" "I'll handle them." Michael stopped walking, turning to face her directly. "Emma, I made you miss Christmas with your family. I can't change that, but I can ensure you don't miss the rest of their visit." The gesture touched her deeply. "Thank you. It's the least I can do." His formal tone slipped, revealing the Michael from last night. "Besides, I've seen how ruthlessly you play poker. I'd rather not face your wrath again." Their laughter broke the tension, restoring some of their newfound ease with each other. In the lounge, Walter was packing the last of his cooking containers, regaling Melissa and Rodriguez with embellished tales of their emergency adventures. "There's the heroes of the hour," Walter exclaimed when Emma and Michael entered. "Just in time to help me carry this stuff back to my apartment." Michael immediately stepped forward. "Allow me, Mr. Hayes." Walter winked at Emma as he handed Michael the heaviest bag. Such a gentleman now. Amazing what 24 hours of actual human interaction can accomplish. The four of them walked together to the hospital exit, saying goodbyes to the staff who had shared their extraordinary Christmas. Outside, the world sparkled under a blanket of snow, now beautiful rather than threatening under the clear blue sky. As they crossed the short distance to Walter's building, Emma found herself walking slightly behind with Michael. "So what happens now?" she asked quietly. Michael considered the question. "Administratively speaking, we'll need to review our emergency protocols, perhaps implement some of the unconventional solutions that proved effective." "That's not what I meant," Emma interrupted gently. Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. "I know," he admitted. "I'm not very good at this part." "Which part is that?" "The part where I admit that meeting you, the real you, not just the doctor on my staffing chart, has changed something for me." His words came carefully, as if navigating unfamiliar territory. "The part where I acknowledge that I'd like to see if there's something here worth exploring, beyond crisis management and card games." Emma's heart raced. That was surprisingly articulate for someone not good at this part. "I prepared notes," he deadpanned, then smiled when she laughed. Walter called back to them from ahead. "Hurry up, lovebirds. I've got hot chocolate waiting, and then Emma needs to get to her family." They both blushed at Walter's characterization but didn't deny it. After helping Walter settle back into his apartment and enduring his not-so-subtle hints about their obvious chemistry, Emma prepared to leave for her sister's house. Michael walked her to her car, both of them suddenly shy. "I'd like to call you," he said as she unlocked her door. "Not about work." "I'd like that," Emma replied. "Though fair warning, Walter will demand all the details." "I'm beginning to accept that some things in life can't be efficiently managed," Michael said with a smile, Walter Hayes being chief among them. Emma hesitated, then made a decision. Rising on tiptoes, she pressed a brief kiss to his cheek. "Merry Christmas, Michael. Thank you for making it unforgettable, even if that wasn't your original plan." His surprised expression quickly melted into warmth. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries are the ones we never intended to make. As Emma drove away, heading toward the family celebration that awaited her, she couldn't help smiling. What had begun as the worst Christmas assignment of her career had transformed into something unexpectedly meaningful. The demanding boss who had forced her to work on Christmas night had indeed discovered something he would never forget, and so had she. 1 year later, Snow fell gently outside Mercy General Hospital, but unlike last year's blizzard, this was the picturesque kind that belonged on Christmas cards, delicate flakes dancing in the glow of street lamps without threatening power outages or road closures. Emma stood at the nurse's station, reviewing her last patient chart of the night. Her shift was ending at 6, and for once, she wasn't racing against the clock. Everything had been arranged well in advance this year. "Dr. Reynolds?" A young intern approached, looking nervous. "The patient in 3 is asking for pain medication again. His last dose was only 3 hours ago." Emma nodded. "I'll speak with him. Sometimes what patients need most is reassurance, not more medication." The intern looked relieved. "Thanks. I wasn't sure if—" "Trust your instincts, Dr. Chen," Emma encouraged. "They're usually right." As the intern hurried away, Melissa slid a coffee across the counter. "Some things never change, still mentoring the newbies on Christmas Eve." "Someone has to," Emma replied with a smile. "Besides, it's a considerably better Christmas Eve than last year." "You mean the Christmas of the Great Blizzard? The Christmas when you and our stern administrator were trapped together and sparks flew?" Melissa wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. Emma rolled her eyes. "That's not exactly how I remember it. Not according to Walter. He tells everyone who'll listen how he personally orchestrated the hospital's greatest romance by trapping you two with his Christmas dinner. Walter exaggerates, as usual." "Maybe," Melissa conceded. "But he wasn't wrong about the romance part, was he?" Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. "Everything's ready. Don't be late. Walter's already here and threatening to tell embarrassing stories." Emma smiled, texting back, "On my way. Keep him away from the eggnog." The reply came immediately. "Too late. Send help." "Speak of the devil?" Melissa asked, noticing Emma's expression. "Just Michael reminding me not to be late." Emma handed over her final charts. "The ER's quiet, all patients are stable, and my relief just arrived. I'm officially off duty." Melissa hugged her. "Merry Christmas, Emma. Give my best to Michael and Walter." 20 minutes later, Emma pulled into the driveway of a charming 2-story house on Maple Street. Lights twinkled in every window, and a wreath adorned the red front door. The sight still gave her a small thrill. This was home now, her home with Michael, a fact that sometimes seemed surreal given where they'd started. Inside, warmth and laughter greeted her. The living room was transformed by Christmas decorations, a magnificent tree, and the people gathered around it. Her sister Sarah, niece Lily, mother Walter, and at the center of it all, Michael, wearing a ridiculous holiday sweater that Walter had undoubtedly forced upon him. "There she is," Walter announced. "Our Christmas miracle worker has arrived." Michael broke away from the group, meeting her at the doorway. "You made it," he said softly, his eyes conveying more than his words. "Right on time." Emma removed her coat, revealing her own festive sweater underneath. "I see Walter got to you with the mandatory attire." Resistance was futile. Michael helped her with her coat, using the moment to steal a quick kiss. "Your mother brought 3 types of pie, and you've already sampled all 3, I assume. Quality control is an essential administrative function." Their easy banter was interrupted by Sarah calling them to dinner. As everyone settled around the table, expanded since Thanksgiving to accommodate their growing family circle, Emma marveled at how much had changed in a year. After their snowbound Christmas, she and Michael had started cautiously dating, both aware of the potential complications of their professional relationship. But what had begun as careful coffee meetings quickly deepened into something neither could deny. By spring, they were inseparable. By summer, Michael had proposed during a weekend trip to the coast. By fall, they had bought this house together, creating a home that already felt filled with love. "Before we eat," Walter announced, raising his glass, "I'd like to make a toast." He looked around the table, his weathered face beaming. "To found family, to second chances, and to the power of being stuck in a hospital during a blizzard." Everyone laughed, clinking glasses as Michael squeezed Emma's hand under the table. "And to think," he whispered to her, I almost sent you home that night. Best staffing mistake you ever made, she replied. Later, after dinner had been devoured, gifts exchanged, and Walter's increasingly elaborate retelling of last Christmas's events endured, and then I said to Michael, "Son, if you don't see what's right in front of you, you're not the efficiency expert you claim to be." Emma found a quiet moment with Michael in the kitchen. He wrapped his arms around her from behind as she rinsed dishes. "Happy?" "Completely." She leaned back against him. "Though I keep expecting to wake up and find myself back in that snowed-in hospital with you lecturing me about proper resource allocation." "I was insufferable, wasn't I?" "Completely," she repeated, turning to face him. "But you got better." His smile was tender. "Because of you. And Walter, though don't tell him I admitted that. Your secret's safe with me." She traced the line of his jaw. "It's strange to think that if not for that terrible scheduling decision, we might never have truly met," he finished. "I might have remained the villain who ruined your Christmas. And I would have remained just another doctor on your staffing chart." Michael shook his head. "You could never be just another anything, Emma Reynolds." From the living room, Walter's voice called out, "If you two lovebirds are done canoodling in there, we're about to start the movie." Emma laughed. "Some things really never change." "Thank goodness for that," Michael replied, taking her hand as they rejoined their makeshift family. Hours later, after everyone had departed with promises to return the next day for Christmas dinner, Emma and Michael stood together by the window, watching the snow continue its gentle descent. "I have something for you," Michael said suddenly. "A special gift I wanted to give you privately." He retrieved a small wrapped package from his desk and placed it in her hands. Inside, Emma found a crystal snowflake ornament, delicate and catching the light. "It's beautiful," she said, turning it to admire the prismatic reflections. "Read the inscription," Michael prompted softly. Engraved along the edge were the words, "On Christmas night, I discovered what matters most." Emotion welled in Emma's throat. "Michael." "1 year ago tonight, I walked into that hospital thinking I knew exactly how the world worked. In neat rows and columns, measurable outcomes and optimal efficiency." His voice was low, intimate. "I had no idea that forcing one stubborn doctor to work would change everything." Emma hung the ornament on a branch where it caught the lights, sending rainbow patterns across the wall. "From crisis to Christmas miracle." "The best gifts are often unexpected," Michael said, drawing her close, "like being snowed in with the right person at exactly the right time. Or discovering that the boss you thought you'd hate might actually be the love of your life," Emma added. As they stood together in the glow of their first Christmas tree, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from adversaries to allies to partners. What had begun as the worst Christmas assignment had transformed into the greatest gift of her life. Outside, the snow continued to fall, no longer a threat, but a gentle reminder of how the most beautiful things can emerge from the coldest storms, and how sometimes being forced to work on Christmas night might lead to discovering something truly unforgettable.